Humbug.
This week at the movies, holiday movie season begins with Disney's A Christmas Carol.
We're Jedi. We don't fight with guns, we fight with our minds.
George Clooney is a psychic soldier on a mission in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
If you push the button, two things will happen.
What happens if Cameron Diaz pushes that button? We'll review the box.
Who's gonna love me?
And one of the strongest dramas of the year in my 3 to see.
Plus, two wildly unconventional films make our list of the top 10 movies of the decade.
Any room and heaven and nature soon.
And heaven and nature sing.
Jim Carrey plays Ebenezer Scrooge in Disney's A Christmas Carol. I'm A.O. Scott of the New York Times.
And I'm Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune. Gather around the digital fire, folks, for what Disney is calling a, quote, multi-sensory thrill ride. We've had plenty of screen versions of A Christmas Carol, but there's never been a version with so much cinematic technology thrown at it. The newest edition of the Charles Dickens tale combines motion capture animation, meaning real actors digitally manipulated, with the coming-at-you effects of 3D. In the middle of it all is Jim Carrey playing Scrooge. He also plays the ghosts of Christmases past, present, and yet to come. And in this scene, Gary Oldman's Jacob Marley warns Scrooge of the night ahead of him.
You will be haunted by three spirits.
That's the Johnson hoop. I'd rather not.
Expect the first. Tomorrow when the bell tolls one.
Couldn't I take them all at once?
That's more or less faithful to the source material. Scenes like this one, where a miniaturized Scrooge outruns a coach and horses, not so much. If you saw writer-director Robert Zemeckis' film versions of The Polar Express or Beowulf, you won't be surprised at how he's overindulging on set pieces like this one. I was surprised, though, at how sparely and effectively Zemeckis and Carrey handle the more intimate scenes. It's the techno shtick in this film I'm not so sure about. I'm still waiting for the motion capture animated feature where everyone looks like a human being instead of a Cabbage Patch doll outfitted with George Washington's wooden teeth. I think it's going to be easier to appreciate what works about this Christmas Carol, namely Carrey's performance and Zemeckis' undeniable visual dynamism without the 3D. So crazy as it sounds, I say wait for the small screen on this one to rent it for me.
Really, I think it's a see it, because I think some of these 3D set pieces, I mean, this is a scary movie. This is a ghost story.
Yeah.
It's not, I wouldn't recommend it for very young, easily frightened children.
Too intense for kids, yeah.
But I think with the exception of that chase with the horses where he shrinks, which I think was completely outside of the visual logic of the film,
right.
I think it works very well. And I was very impressed with how it goes from this kind of big, grand, over-the-top scale to these intimate, quiet moments. So I thought also the writing is excellent.
It's true to the original.
It does have this kind of Victorian flavor to it that is pretty risky.
I'd say this. The best thing that Zemeckis does, and Carrey, are they play those early scenes with Scrooge absolutely dead serious. You know, he's a bone-chillingly fearsome old man, and I think that sets the right tone. What I don't like is not one, not two, but three of those aerial swoops over London. Don't need that. And to me, Tony, this whole motion capture thing, it's more like emotion erasure. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's like it isn't expressive
I think that's
enough.
true in some places. I mean, and I noticed that some of the supporting figures and secondary characters looked very cold and inhuman and sort of rubberized, or like video game avatars.
This is like Bob Hoskins' Fezziwig.
But I thought that especially Carrey himself and the ghost, especially Scrooge himself, and the ghost, really captured something strange and dark and got the dimensions of the story. Well, I think it's worth putting on those funny glasses and going to the theater and checking this one out.
All right.
Our next movie is The Men Who Stare at Goats. It's an odd title, and it's an odd movie as well, with a big cast of fine actors goofing around and playing soldier. The premise, it's based on a true story, we've heard that one many times before, is that for many, many years, a special top-secret unit of the U.S. Army carried out research in psychic and other paranormal activities, such as using only their minds to kill goats. That explains the title. The unit was led by a hippie visionary, played by Jeff Bridges, a Lebowski in uniform named Bill Django.
We must create warrior monks. Men and women who can fall in love with everyone, sense plant auras, pass through walls, Stop saying mindless cliches and see into the future.
The movie tells the story of his outfit's rise and fall in flashbacks, narrated by George Clooney's Lynn Cassidy, who was one of Django's most gifted soldiers back in the good old days.
It's a man sitting in a chair.
No, wait a minute. You said A, not K? He said A.
Bravo, Zulu.
Now Lynn is driving through the desert of wartime Iraq with a journalist played by Ewan McGregor, who thinks their chance encounter has given him the story of a lifetime. Though sometimes Lynn's new age warrior prowess leaves a little bit to be desired.
What are you doing? Cloud bursting. Keeps me in shape. Really? Which one? That one. And it's gone.
Everyone involved seems to have a pretty good time, but this one looks like it was more fun to make than it is to watch. So skip this one.
Yeah, I say skip it too, Tony. It's a disappointment because of all the movies I've seen in the last year or two that are shot in a kind of a fake documentary style, this is one that should have been shot that way because I think it would have offset the humor. You know, let's assume it's based on a true story enough so they actually had soldiers thinking they can run through walls if they just think the right psychic thoughts. You know, you can't play that kind of psych egg broadly or the movie is absolutely over by the 30-minute mark. And I think no matter how talented this cast is, you know, very good cast,
and also
it just doesn't.
The direction.
Sustain.
I mean, this is Grant Heslov, who's been producing and writing partner of Clooney's for a while, and he doesn't quite have the touch to direct this material. I mean, it needs to be darker, or it needs to be edgier, or it needs to be more madcap, or something. Well, it's just like a bunch of guys throwing themselves around. Look at us, we're having a good time, we're being crazy. And by the way,
I don't think it should be all one way or the other, because I think you know you have to find it absurdly funny at the beginning because you're taken to some very dark and disturbing places. The closer you get to the war in Iraq later, it does not make that transition.
If I may, didn't Ewan McGregor used to be a really interesting actor?
Yeah, I would not believe Ewan McGregor as a small-town Michigan reporter, which you have to buy him for here.
No, he's just an empty shirt in this movie.
Okay, coming up next, what would you do for $1 million? We'll tell you what Cameron Diaz does when we review The Box.
And later, will The Fourth Kind be the next paranormal activity?
We have to save your son or your wife is gonna die. How's she gonna die? You're going to kill her.
Everything that happens in the second half of our next movie, The Box, Richard Kelly's thriller, constitutes the spoiler. The setup we can talk about. It's 1976, the height of the ugly wallpaper era. A well-spoken fellow with a mysterious facial disfiguration shows up unannounced at the Arlington, Virginia home of the Lewises, a couple played by Cameron Diaz and James Marsden. Frank Langella is the man with the box with the secrets.
If you push the button, two things will happen. First, someone somewhere in the world whom you don't know will die. Second, you will receive a payment of $1 million.
Okay, we'll get back to you on that. Now, on the other hand, $1 million, $1 million bucks worth of blood money. Surely we can wash that blood off our hands somehow.
What if it's someone's baby?
What if it's a murderer on death row?
What if it's our neighbors across the street? What do we want to do, Norma?
Well, we all make mistakes. Once we get to the cryptic explanation of why Langella's character has chosen these people for his Who Wants to Be a Millionaire moral dilemma, Kelly has wandered into some pretty trippy intergalactic science fiction territory. It's fine in theory, deadly in practice. Now, you should check out Kelly's film Donnie Darko sometime, just to find out if he's your kind of fantasist. This one, well, I wish it had 1/10 the intensity of the Lewis's kitchen wallpaper. So I say skip it. Tony, a disappointment.
I say see it, wallpaper and all. Yes, I think that Richard Kelly, from one film to the next, has gone in some very interesting and sometimes puzzling directions. I like Donnie Darko a lot.
Yeah.
I was flummoxed, but not in an unpleasant way, by Southland Tales.
I'm with you there.
This one, you know, it pulls the rug out from under you and out from under itself a bunch of times. It proceeds in this very strange, free associative way, but I really like the mood, I really like the look, and I just like the feeling of being kept sort of off balance and wondering right up until the end, what is this picture about? What is he saying? I found that not frustrating, but actually intriguing.
Here's my thing. I think Kelly is a very inventive writer, and I think he is his own worst enemy behind the camera. You just don't get the sense that he knows how to really activate some of these ideas he's got. And I found the pacing very kind of ploppy and methodical, and he just doesn't know how to energize
I actually found it very sort of dreamy and dreamlike in the way that a David Lynch picture is. It takes you from one place to another place. You're not sure what they have to do with each other. It all almost comes together, doesn't quite come together.
Not this time.
I just felt I was intrigued. I want to see it again, and I hope people will write in and tell me just what exactly it all means.
All right.
But coming up next, we're counting down the decade's best movies, and we'll reveal our number 8 picks.
And on next week's show, from the maker of Independence Day and The Day After Tomorrow comes the biggest disaster movie yet, 2012.
A little change. Ross, the savings are unbeatable.
Now it's time to continue with our countdown of the 10 best movies of the last 10 years. My number 10 pick was $1 Million Baby. At number 9, I have 25th Hour. My number 8 pick is a love story, a very unusual one, and perhaps the most memorable movie ever made on the subject of forgetting. It's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, a product of the visual wizardry of director Michel Gondry and the restless, omnivorous imagination of screenwriter Charlie Kaufman.
You're not a stalker or anything, right?
I'm not a stalker. You're the one that talked to me, remember?
That is the oldest trick in the stalker book.
Really? There's a stalker book? Okay. I gotta read that one.
An amazingly subdued Jim Carrey plays Joel, a mopey fellow, smitten with a charming waif named Clementine, played by Kate Winslet, who breaks his heart so bad he'll do anything to get her back, or maybe just to erase her from his mind. Eternal Sunshine creates its own world, in which a mad scientist runs a memory-wiping business, and where reality seems as unpredictable as human emotions. It's sad, it's funny, it's loaded with brilliantly puzzling ideas and full of real and powerful feeling.
Tony, I'm glad to see your list going in the correct direction.
Approve of my taste.
Yes, you're
Finally,
actually.
I was wondering.
It's improving as we go down the list. No, I think this is a very good film, and I think Charlie Kaufman is one of the great auteurs of the whole decade. He has been writing unbelievable stuff in the
adaptation.
Being
yes.
John Malkovich, and though it's a difficult film and not entirely successful, Synecdoche, New York, and he's always dealing with really what it means to be alive and what it means to have a heart, you know. And I think he's doing it in a way that is so witty and so smart, and I just find very moved by that. And
it's really grounded. I mean, these movies are crazy and go in all kinds of weird directions, but they're always grounded in real feeling and in real problems.
And they're at their core, they're very serious. Yeah. Recapping my list so far, I had Minority Report at number 10, Gosford Park at number 9. My number 8 pick for the top 10 of the decade is David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, which tells the twisty, reality-bending story of a sunny young actress from Deep River, Ontario, who travels to Hollywood to try her luck in the movies. First day in town, she meets a sultry femme fatale who has survived both an attempt on her life and a car accident, but she's an amnesiac with no clue as to her identity.
This is your purse. Your name must be in your purse. You want to know, don't you? Yes, but open it.
That's Laura Elena Haring with the fantastic Naomi Watts as Betty, a character who isn't who she seems either. As we follow these stories, the film grows more and more hallucinatory, and by the 2/3 point, you've lost all your bearings, but in a wonderful way. The film was expanded from a TV pilot, rejected by ABC. And like Lynch's Twin Peaks, I think this one probably would have had a hard time sustaining its trance-like quality. But the way Mulholland Drive turned out, it's a timeless, voluptuous, and fabulous puzzle with no single solution. Tony, this, for me, right up there with Eraserhead, Blue Velvet. This is his third great masterwork.
You know, I liked it the first time I saw it. I think that this is one of these movies that gathers a kind of a critical sort of cult of personality around it.
I don't care what anybody else thinks about it.
I don't think that it actually does hold up or repay repeated viewings. I think that there's beautiful stuff in it. There are haunting images. There are a lot of fascinating kind of creepy Freudian implications in the way that there usually are with David Lynch.
Right.
But I think that it just kind of wanders. I don't think that it sustains a tone or an air of mystery, and I don't think, unlike Eternal Sunshine, I don't think that it's really, in the end, grounded in an interesting psychological or emotional set of
apples and oranges. And I think you're just trying to, you wish it was a different kind of movie altogether. For me, it's a dream that works.
Well, for me, it's a dream that I wake up and forget all about it. But in any case, both Mulholland Drive and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind are currently available on DVD.
Tony, in our viewers poll for the decade's best, we have a very interesting neck-and-neck tie between Wall-E and There Will Be Blood. So
well, we have some pretty smart viewers.
Very smart.
Better taste than you.
Hey, wait a minute. Go to atthemoviestv.com or twitter.com/atthemoviestv to give us your...
There's an owl at my window.
An owl?
Nice eyes are big.
A white owl, just looking at me. Had you ever seen it before? Tommy?
When I was a kid, just staring at me.
I've seen it a lot.
Every night this week.
In our next movie, The Fourth Kind, some residents of Nome, Alaska find themselves plagued by insomnia and sightings of owls whose eyes are repeatedly shown in close-up. These birds are not there to deliver mail from Hogwarts, but instead they're omens of terrifying visitors who speak ancient Sumerian. People start disappearing, dying, and shooting each other. All of this is investigated by Abigail Tyler, a psychologist specializing in sleep disorders who has some pretty serious troubles of her own.
Someone or something came into my room, but whoever it was, I fought it. But it was too strong, and it took me away.
Dr. Tyler is sometimes played by Mila Jovovich, and sometimes a person identified as the real Dr. Tyler appears on camera in an interview with the movie's director, Olatunde Asunsanmi, to explain just what it was that happened to her. And everything in this movie seems to happen at least twice in supposedly actual documentary video and audio recordings of weird happenings and in overly arty, art-directed dramatizations. There's a lot of text and distracting split-screen effects that are meant both to scare you and to convince you that alien abduction is real. If it were, I wish they had come for me during the screening of this dull, clumsy little movie, one you should by all means skip.
I say skip it too, Tony. And I'd like to introduce the people who are going to be playing us in the reenactments of this show. Now, this is the most self-competing picture because you have often on screen, you know, in a split or even a quadrant screen, you know, the maybe authentic, maybe not, you know, real home movie footage, you know, and then you have the actors on the other side of the screen competing for your attention. It's like, no.
They undermine each other because you could have, you know, a paranormal activity style movie where you have the fake documentary footage all by itself, and that can kind of scare you.
Right.
Or you could have a very, you know, slickly directed, movie star driven, you know, sort of dark shadows.
Which is beyond
kind
this
of
film's capability. Yes,
thrillers,
beyond,
but to put both on the screen literally at the same time destroys both of them.
You mentioned
barely a scare in this picture.
You mentioned Paranormal Activity, which is a film that I know you didn't like. I liked it quite a bit better. And that one does deliver on this idea of, like, what if this raw footage really had something, you know, soul-rattlingly kind of revealing in it. You know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. This film does not.
No, this has nothing.
Even the owls aren't frightening. So. One of the greatest of all Hitchcock thrillers has just been released in a 50th anniversary Blu-ray edition. Does it live up to the hype? We'll talk about it on our website. Just go to atthemoviestv.com and click on web exclusives.
And coming up next, we take another look at the powerful drama Precious.
And I do like you. I do.
Closed captioning for At the Movies is sponsored by
100% pure beef ×2. Chopped onions, pickles, American cheese. The McDonald's McDouble. It's a double or a single. On the dollar menu.
Hotel provided by Park Hyatt Chicago. Chicago's award-winning hotel and luxury dining experience. Located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile on Water Tower Square.
Okay, now it's time for my 3 to see. At number 3, Michael Jackson's This Is It, a better-than-expected collection of rehearsal footage shot in the months prior to the death of the supernaturally talented king of pop. Number 2, The Little Demon Story That Could, the one that could teach the fourth kind a thing or two, Paranormal Activity, which has already gone far beyond cult hit status. And number 1, Precious, which opens this week in limited release.
Nobody loves me.
People do love you, Precious.
Please don't lie to me. Love ain't done nothing for me. Love beat me. Make me feel worthless.
Your baby loves you. I love you.
That's Gabori Sidibe and Paula Patton in one of the most intense dramas you're going to see this year, telling the story of a Harlem teenager in the 1980s whose miserable home life cannot be quenched her spirit. This is a strong
This
film.
is a strong movie, very strongly acted by a quite remarkable cast.
The range,
yes,
like non-actors,
yes,
pop
Lenny
divas.
Kravitz, Mariah Carey, Monique, the comedian, in this volcanic role as the monstrous mother, and Gabrielle Sidibe, a first-timer, a newcomer, who is just terrific and in a way holds the movie together.
It's a real feat that Lee Daniels actually got everybody into the same universe and you know, right at the brink of melodrama all the time, but very
It
very
could have
full.
gone wrong in any number of ways, and he just really nails it. He gets it right.
No, it's solid.
That's it for now. Go to atthemoviestv.com or twitter.com/atthemoviestv to give us your picks for the best movie of the decade.
We'll leave you with a recap of this week's show. Join us next week when we'll continue our countdown of the top 10 movies of the decade. Plus, we'll review John Cusack in 2012 and George Clooney in Fantastic Mr. Fox. And until then, we'll be at the movies.
You ate yet? Yeah, I had nuts.
Oh. Try something new with IHOP's holiday hotcakes. Gingerbread, eggnog, or pecan pie. IHOP, come hungry, leave happy.
Activon Ultra Strength for powerful pain relief. A convenient applicator means no messy creams. Activon, applied directly where it hurts for joint pain, muscle pain, arthritis, and backache.
Your pets need year-round protection, plus medications for cold weather joint pain. Fortunately, they cost a lot less at 1-800-PET-MEDS. Call now or order online.
From Jennifer, a sweeping chaise sectional at the unheard of price. Now just $3.99 with luxurious styling and so affordable. $3.99 from Jennifer.